bottom line is what I think it is the Eagles dominate when they get those combo blocks, and they can't get combo blocks against bare fronts because it's 5-on-5, and all of a sudden it's man-to-man. And Jordan Mailata talked about this weeks ago because they've had problems with these looks before. So I think it's more of an execution problem.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. A little overreaction Monday for you today after the Eagles blow the biggest lead of the Nick Sirianni era. A 21-0 lead ended in disaster. They lose 24-21 after going 40 straight minutes of gameplay with 0 points and 24 unanswered Dallas Cowboy points. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, my friend?
Overreaction Monday. Let's do it. You know, you rarely get a loss around here, so when you do, it's generally Chicken Little time. The sky is falling. You know, last time this happened was the Giants game, I guess, right? The first Giants game when they lost. And that was sort of a mini bye. I always think it's good to get back on the field when you lose as soon as possible. You never want to play on a short week, but it's a short week. Black Friday, Chicago Bears. Bigger game than we all expected with Chicago finding a way to win every week. They didn't play well. They barely squeaked it out against the New York Giants. So good matchup for the Eagles to get right back out there. Now, the difficulty is you had so many injuries in the secondary. You don't want a short week from that perspective because they're going to be hampered in the secondary. But so there's some good give and take. For the game yesterday, I mean, we've seen it, you know. It's like this is the most confounding offensive team of all time. I mean, they look dominant in the first 3 drives. They look unstoppable. And then they have these lulls and they can't do anything and they shoot themselves in the foot, negative plays and penalties and yada, yada, yada. It's confounding, really is. But one thing that has been consistent is they can't run the football. And I don't know anybody saw that coming into the season. This is kind of what I feared last year with Saquon coming over from the Giants. This is the Giants Saquon. This is what I feared last year. Not to this level, but this is what I feared last year. And then he got behind the Eagles offensive line and whoosh, the rest is history.
And when you say that, you mean not hitting holes, things of that nature? Well,
yeah, exactly. And just being a good back, not a great back, and just, you know, it never living up to his expectations of what he was and what people thought he was. And he certainly did that last season. This season, it has been an absolute slog every week practically. I think 10 of 11 games where it's just been underwater. And you know, Tank Bigsby gets 1 carry, so that's all you can look about it. But you know, Tank's getting a carry here, a carry there, and all of a sudden you see this juice, this explosion that's not there with Saquon. Now he claims he's healthy.
You saw a stark contrast between him and Javonte Williams, who is not an electric runner.
Yeah,
but he hits the hole when he's got to. I mean, he gets to 3-4
He hits the hole and he moves the pile.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And I don't want to even hear him in the same conversation. You see Gibbs yesterday? My God. That's what you had last year. That's what you had last year.
Yeah.
That's gone. And, you know, maybe you can recapture it in the offseason, but I don't think you're going to capture it this season. So it's been more of a slog, and it's going to continue to be one because they're inconsistent in the passing game. Now, there's a lot of good in the passing game. I think, you know, overall, I think that's one of the best games Jalen Hurts has played. I know that's weird to say, but I mean, what did he do wrong except take that sack late, which I thought was bad situational football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much he did wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I said that completely on the post-game show. The only spot I would look there would say you are the quarterback of the team, and sometimes you gotta will us,
Well, who does that more than him?
well, I get it, but I mean, 40 minutes, John. Look, this is what I say. There's no team in the league there where if they didn't score for 40 minutes, I would completely not point to the quarterback at all. The quarterback bears responsibility, just like we always say. When it's good, he gets all the credit. When there's no points for 40 minutes, I think he's got to take some of that. But I do agree with you in the sense that he had a good game. I thought he looked great.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like the running game was back, the quarterback running game. Maybe they should have got that involved more in the second half. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, the completion percentage, the yardage, that's what everybody wants. It's there. It was there. And it's
The only thing I don't love about that, and I get where you're going with it, where you all of a sudden you pass the ball and you lose the game. I mean, we also would pass the
no,
ball and built a 3-touchdown lead. No, I'm not saying you said.
I wasn't
I'm saying I
going down
see
that route at all.
narrative. It's like they had a 3-touchdown lead. I mean, that play style worked for the first quarter. For the first quarter and a half. So I don't really think John.
Well, I wasn't going there at all, but the most interesting part to me was the disconnect over the 5-man fronts after seeing people talk about it.
Right. That's where I was going next.
Which is, Landon Dickerson, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni. But basically, Jalen to me gave the most logical explanation.
Agreed.
And Landon, I don't know where that came from. Well, like, first of all, 50 fronts are common in the modern NFL. Bear fronts are common in the modern NFL. So, even if you didn't expect that coming in, and that's been a big thing with the Eagles' unscouted looks. Well, they got Quinnen Williams. That's why they're doing it.
Right. As Jalen Hurts explained, that was a perfect. He's like, well, they just got better players in the interior. They're trying to get them all on the field. I'm like, yeah, that makes complete sense.
And they only had it for 1 week, and they used a bunch of bear fronts in Las Vegas. So, I mean,
that's preparation. That's coaching, no?
Well, I mean, you would have to put it on the guy nobody wants to put it on. I mean, I'm sure you can put it on Patullo and everybody, but that's Stalin.
Yeah, that's Stalin.
So I don't believe it. Number one, I don't know where the disconnect is, but look, they played it last week, and they have Quinnen Williams now, and obviously they were paying a lot of attention to Quinnen Williams, and obviously Jalen was aware, and Nick just sort of coach speak. You never get anything from Nick,
right?
So I mean, Jalen to me was the most credible, and he knows he knew what was going on as a quarterback. So Landon Dickerson should know what's going on. So that's kind of how I took that, but I didn't think that was a good sign at all.
I think it's fair to at this point to say Jeff Stalin has not had a good year. I mean, he's the run game coordinator. They can't run the ball to save their life. And he's the offensive line coach. The offensive line wasn't ready for a 5-man front versus the Dallas Cowboys, who just traded for another defensive tackle. Their 3 best players on defense are the 3 guys in the middle. I mean, Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and Osa Odighizuwa or whatever his name is. And he had the big sack at the end, obviously. I mean, those are good football players. Now they got some other players, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And they played. If they didn't play that last week, if this is their first game with Quinnen, I would accept it. But bottom line is what I think it is the Eagles dominate when they get those combo blocks, and they can't get combo blocks against bear fronts because it's 5-on-5, and all of a sudden it's man-to-man. And Jordan Mailata talked about this weeks ago because they've had problems with these looks before. So I think it's more of an execution problem, and I know people hate that. But it's certainly not rare. It's certainly not new. Now, it might be new in Dallas because they've typically been a 4-man front team, a lot of zone coverage with Eberflus, even going back to Zimmer for a long time. They certainly haven't done it much until they got Quinnen Williams, but they did it a bunch last week, and you have to realize coming in. So I can't say 100% it's not on the coaches, but I find it very hard to believe that Jeff Stoutland isn't aware that they played a bunch of 5-man fronts against the Raiders. And all of a sudden, Quinnen Williams shows up, and they're going to stop. You know, and they go, oh, let's keep Osa on the bench. Let's keep Kenny Clark on the bench. So, you know, number one, and again, these guys aren't under oath. You know, people.
What did you think of the decision to pass on that 3rd and 2 there?
I have no problem with that because you couldn't run the ball at all. You had a running back of 10 carries and 22 yards. I have no problem throwing the football. AJ didn't get open. I didn't, I don't know what the progression was from there.
That's what it looked. I can't speak, but I mean, I don't know, but it looked like it was AJ. They were looking for AJ.
Oh yeah, clearly, clearly the first the first option was AJ, and he just didn't get open.
Yeah.
Now, again, from that point and how it breaks down, then at 13 yards, when you're back that far, that's unacceptable. But sometimes guys aren't open, and we'll get a better look later in the week with the all 22. But maybe the second or third progression was there. Tough to tell with the TV copy.
Yeah, it looked like Goddard was there, but I'm not going to play that game because I hate when people do that. And they're like, you should have thrown it here. I'm like, dude, you have no idea what's going through that quarterback's head at that given time. So fair enough. John, we got to talk about, obviously, the elephant in the room here, which was the penalties. They had 14 of them for 96 yards. They had more penalty yards than they did rushing yards in the game.
By far.
That's just an insane number, John. 14 penalties in the game. I think it's the most since Nick Sirianni's first ever game as a head coach. Sign of an undisciplined team. I mean, you got all sorts of formational penalties. You got pre-snap penalties. You got false starts. You had a penalty on Pryor that wiped off a big play. All sorts of brutal penalties.
By the way, another thing I hate about the NFL, sorry to interrupt you, like that's not on Matt Pryor. Like those formational, when offensive linemen report, when you hear, because you've seen that a couple of times, Dan Skipper most notably, fail to report or fail to make it clear when they have to sort of brush their jersey, that's on the offensive lineman. It's on when they report, that's on the receiver, and I don't know who was on that side to make sure they're not uncovered, but cover them up. But the penalty is always called on the. It's like this league creates so much misunderstanding because of how they label things. It's like, I fumble same way. It could be the running back on an RPO blowing the handoff, but it goes on the quarterback's record no matter what. That's when you see somebody who reports eligible and there's a penalty on that player, unless he didn't report, that's the wide receiver fuck up. Because I heard a number of people say, Matt Pryor's an idiot. No. Not at all. And the wide receivers are the ones who understand that, who play all the time. That's on them. But either way, it's sorry to interrupt. It's
you're good.
Disastrous penalty either way. And that was a 20-yard game. They were really moving the football. That was that nice little play to Dallas Goedert. And they would have had a 1st and 10 at the Dallas 40. And it's wiped out because somebody can't line up correctly.
And then they're behind the sticks and they're punting after that. John, what's your perspective on that? 14 penalties in the game, kind of from an overall point of view. What do you take of that? If you're Nick Sirianni, how do you kind of respond to that this week on a short week at practice? Obviously, it's not something you can let fly. I mean, I don't think you're going to win many football games when you're taking 14 freaking penalties for 96 yards, especially at the times where they came. What do you make of it?
Well, it's not good. I mean, the pre-snap penalties are the biggest problem. There's some,
it's been a problem all year, though, hasn't it?
Yeah. Those negative plays. Now, when you're on the road and you're playing, like I said yesterday on the postgame show, if you're playing Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, you're going to occasionally get a false start on the road, as you're trying to jump out. But, there's different. So you have to look at each one as far as other stuff, PIs and, the Devontae OPI and Tyler Steen got caught for holding. Sometimes they miss him, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's good call, sometimes it's not. But to me, the pre-snap penalties are the ones that are just killers. And when they're obvious, and most of them were obvious, the only one I can think of that maybe you can complain about is the Jurgens false start where they said he jerked his head or something. That was a little bit of a, what are you doing type of call. But most of them are just, shooting yourself in the foot. And boy, there's illegal formations, especially those drive coaches crazy.
Yeah.
Because that's all you do is practice that shit and lining up and that, and, but at the same time, it keeps happening. It's getting worse. It got worse. Dallas is a big place, a loud place, but again, not the most difficult place to play these days because you have so many of your fans in there because the building is so large.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people put that out there too, that the Eagles fans were all over that place.
Yeah.
You heard it on the Coop tackle. Coop.
Yeah. So
like burnt outside.
It's not like you have some of these places where, Detroit, it's so loud, maybe you're going to get Detroit, if you're playing against Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit, maybe you're going to get a false start occasionally, and you got to live with it. And by the way, you can also overcome it too. The fact that this team and this offense is 1st and 15 shouldn't be a death sentence, but it is. Plenty of teams overcome it. Too often, I should say it is. And they just don't. They get a negative play, and you might as well, Braden Mann might as well get off the bench because he's coming in.
No doubt. John, I want to talk about the turnovers. The Eagles lose the turnover battle for the first time in quite a bit. And what happens? They lose the game. Coincidence? I think not, but I will add more context. Both turnovers the Eagles had in the football game, while I do feel like many people thought they were potentially a turning point or a big point, the Cowboys failed to score on both turnovers.
Yeah.
They got the ball inside the 10 on the Gibson fumble, which was just ridiculous that he even fielded that from the 2-yard line. The Cowboys got 0 points. They didn't even kick the field goal. They got stuffed at the goal line. Same with the Saquon fumble. They did not get any points off of the Saquon fumble. So I get it. You lost the turnover battle. You lost the game. But they really didn't contribute to the outcome, in my opinion.
No, and they didn't lose it. It was even. The problem is they didn't win.
Takeaways?
Yeah, 2-2. Okay. But you're right. They didn't, the defense, I said in a weird way, and obviously Dan pushed back on me. It's like I came out of the game saying, and I know the numbers. If you just look at numbers, it doesn't look good. But I don't think the defense played that poorly. I really don't. And I get people,
but I also get Dan's perspective. 24 straight unanswered points, almost 500 yards of offense. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I get it.
I didn't think they played bad either. I didn't think they were the reason they lost.
I get it, but that's the point. That's kind of the point. It's about giving up points. 473 yards. Typically, you have more than 24 points, and they would have had much more than 24 points if they could cash in on some of those short fields,
right, or
get some of those 4th downs. I think they were 0 for 2 on 4th down. So the Cowboys were 0 for 2. The Lions were 0 for 5. So they're on quite the run of 4th down defense. And when you get the Gibson fumble was catastrophic at the time, or at least you thought. They're inside the 10.
Yeah.
Got nothing. That's what I'm saying when I say I can't sit there and say, well, that was a terrible defensive performance. Basically they couldn't handle one guy, Pickens, and they couldn't handle him. That's fair.
That guy is amazing, man.
And, Javonte Williams had a nice game. I'm not, but it wasn't backbreaking. One guy killed them. Now there were some CD drops again.
Which I mean,
that may have made it worse, but that's packaged into everything. I mean, bottom line is they only gave up. They gave up. If you, I had them losing 28-27 for I thought Dallas was going to score some points, and I thought they'd score a little bit more. They ended, for 21 points through 59 minutes and 50 seconds is pretty good against that offense, especially at home where they're averaging 35 points coming in.
Yeah.
I know.
I get it.
Good enough. I'm not saying Vic Fangio's going in there. Good job, guys. He doesn't say good job, guys, when they dominate the Super Bowl.
I think there were bigger reasons for the loss than the defense.
Yes.
I agree with that completely.
I mean, he was a guy complaining about the Super Bowl because they gave up too much in the second half.
Right.
Yeah, he's not happy, but I'm just saying I think there were bigger issues. And then also when later in the game, when they started losing guys in the secondary, it became much more difficult. Which, we'll have to see with the injuries and how quick. Obviously, Adori's probably not going to play on a short week, but that shouldn't be long term, I wouldn't think. Although it's multiple concussions, so maybe it is.
Man, that looked bad. Like he almost knew right away.
Yeah, he did.
Action on the field, and sometimes concussions aren't that way. You hit your head and you're a little woozy or something. Like he knew right away. He hit his head hard.
Yeah, he knew, and so it might be longer than a week.
I don't know what his history is of concussions. John, one other thing I want to talk about here. We're going to get Jeff Curran in a little bit. I don't see a fix for the run game in the near future, John, and that's the biggest problem plaguing this team right now. They cannot run the football. We talked about it a little bit at the open. 10 carries for 22 yards. It's one thing if you're down by 21 to have those type of numbers because you're not trying to run the football. You have a 3-touchdown lead in the game, 2-touchdown lead after halftime, and you got the ball after halftime. You have 10 carries for 22 yards. If you told me that before this game, I wouldn't have found a way to believe you. That feels unheard of. 10 carries for 22 yards with a 3-touchdown lead. What's going on in the run game? Is there a near fix? Do you see a fix? This, to me, looks like the biggest offensive problem that this team has.
Well, I think it is overreaching overall, but I think you look at it, and that's what Nick Sirianni said, which was basically, when he was talking about the 5-man fronts, it was basically, well, that's why we threw it so much early. So that does make some sense. If somebody's coming out in those 5-man fronts and they're trying to stop the run game, and they're pretty successful,
right?
Because they have basically, again, that's Vic's whole philosophy, +1 in coverage. Everybody talks about the +1 on offense. There's a +1 on defense. And it's basically you want it in coverage because that makes it much more difficult. If you got to put it to either stop the run or rush the passer, you're down 1 in coverage. That's what nobody wants on the defensive side. So that's what they were taking advantage of early. And then later, then he went into scheme and how we execute it and the personnel groupings and blah, 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 which is a throwaway line for most people. But look, if somebody comes out in 5-man fronts, you should throw the ball.
That makes sense.
And that's what they did. But to me, it's not about 10. It's not about the number. I can't tell you how much I hate just people who pick up the box score and say, look at this number. It's just not
score. Saquon, we can't run the ball, dude.
No, I know that part of it is that's what I'm trying to say. It's not about the number. It's about the efficiency when you are doing it, because the number is circumstantial. Again, if it's a 4-man front, the number's higher. but it's the ineffectiveness when you do run it, 2.2 yards per carry, which is pretty damn ineffective. And obviously that's, Saquon took accountability. He's saying he basically is having a bad year and all blah, blah, blah.
What's up with the cleats, dude? It feels like every time the guy puts his foot in the ground to make a cut, he slips out. I mean, I must have seen 15 slips this year from Saquon Barkley.
Well, it shouldn't be an issue there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Retire those damn cleats, dude. You need different cleats. Every time he puts his foot in the ground, he's slipping. Even by the way, even on the play that preceded the 3rd and 2, it was a dump off from Jalen Hurts on 2nd down. He could have easily gotten the 1st down. Even Kevin Burkhardt even said it. Looked like he would have got the 1st down if he didn't slip there. And then they had 3rd and 2. They get sacked. Cowboys get the ball back, and the rest is history.
Well, if it were that simple, I think they'd fix it. I think.
I hear you. I just don't know what the hell is going on. Every time he cuts, he slips. I'm just going off.
And obviously, that's always a bigger deal when you're playing outside, bad weather, wet, rain, whatever. That could be a big deal. Indoors, it shouldn't be a problem at all. He did slip. I mean, people slip, especially explosive people when they're trying to, get going a little bit too early. He's just having a bad year.
Really bad. Really bad.
It's
not like he's not getting his touches, by the way. He was 4th in the NFL in carries coming into that game. I don't know what he is after week 12.
He actually did a pretty good job as a receiver. I think that's the best he's looked as a receiver all year.
Yeah, but where else he's so bad, and it was glaring yesterday? The pass blocking. And it wasn't glaring because he had a big bad moment. It's because I watched Javonte Williams pick up multiple times, an extra block, and gave Dak an extra second to get the football. One of the big throws to George Pickens down the field, Javonte Williams laid a body into Nolan Smith, gave Dak an extra second, and boom, massive completion downfield. Saquon sucks at that, dude.
He has not had a good year in pass protection. He's been worse in pass protection than he has been running the football. To the point a couple weeks ago, they started playing Will Shipley a little bit more, who isn't exactly, great in pass protection either. So, he's not having a good year.
No doubt. John, one more topic I want to get to. We got Jeff Kerr in the green room. Jeff Kerr coming up in a little bit here on Birds 365. John, does it feel like this coaching staff is failing to make adjustments in game? I know you hate halftime adjustments, but adjustments are ongoing. And I don't think this coaching staff has showed an ability to adjust in game to what they are seeing. And maybe you heard a little bit of that from Landon Dickerson yesterday, who said, yeah, we just, we got to be more ready for it, basically. You see,
I think that's more, I think Landon's quote is more about preparation, but even so, I don't admit, because the quarterback
to adjust to something if you're not prepared for it. If you're prepared for it beforehand, it's easier to adjust.
Well, this is like the thing with the 9th grade offense or whatever, and that like they don't know what a crossing route is. Like, does that hold any water to anybody? Like in the modern NFL,
it does. Yeah.
In the modern NFL, you're perplexed by a bear front, by a 50 front. Really? They've never seen 50 fronts before? Really? Anybody buy that? They sure as hell saw it in Minnesota when they had a perfect passer rating. That's all they did. And sometimes 6-man fronts. Like what are we talking about? I mean, with stuff like that. Like I said, this offense, out of necessity, by the way, because they can't run the football. If you want to count just adjustments, they've done much more adjusting in game this year than last season, because they didn't have to adjust. They just beat the brakes off people last year for the most part, once they got past week 5. And this year it's been more of a slog, so they had to adjust. The whole point of the before Lane got hurt, the big Fred packages, that's an adjustment. The the stuff in the red zone, which has largely been really good. Those are adjustments. Look, I'm just saying, it doesn't, if you really think about it, it doesn't pass the smell test from a logic standpoint. Now, have they been effective? No, that's the problem.
All right, well, hear me out on this, all right? And I get what you're saying. Eagles go touchdown, 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 moving the ball at ease. Looked like the best offense we were going to see all year with the way they started the game. After that, they go 3 plays, -2 yards punt. 1 play, 1 yard, end of half. 3 play, 3 yards punt. 6 play, 18-yard punt. 3 plays, 7 yards punt. 7 plays, 30 yards, missed field goal. 6 plays, 33 yards fumble. 5 yards, 17 yards punt. Now, I get it. There's a lot of penalties in there. There's a lot of context to that. But do you think Dallas made an adjustment to go from 3 straight touchdowns given up to 7 or 8 straight drives that were point-free for the Eagles? I mean, is there no adjustment? Are you telling me that they don't have anything?
Well, I think it's a perfect example of Matt Eberflus is the most static guy you're going to see in the modern NFL. To the point I said at the end of the game when they got the ball at 21-21 and they're on the goal line and he's playing those soft zones and they start out really well with the AJ pass on the corner. And I'm like, all right, they can nickel and dime this and go win the game. And they didn't affect most static guy in the NFL, not an exaggeration. I could run down all 31 most static guy in the NFL. Did they make adjustments? No. No. They absolutely, he plays what he plays. He plays what he plays. Now he shifted from the personnel standpoint with the 5-man fronts because of he got Quentin Williams. But as far as the coverage goes, that dude is literally the most static guy in the NFL. He's like an old school cover 2 guy, which is just line up and play. And everybody, I used to joke with Tony Dungy back in the day, where he's lining up everybody in March. Same thing. Now, won a Super Bowl with it. Had some of the greatest defenses in the modern era with it because it's more about executing. It's more about having good players. It's more about everybody knows you can take a hole shot in cover 2 or you can take a seam shot in cover 2. But if Derek Brooks is carrying the guy down the field, it's a lot more difficult than it's Jeff Kerr and John McMullen.
Yeah. Speaking of Jeff Kerr, let's go to him. Good opening segment, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. Hit the like button. All super chats will be read a little bit later on in the program, so continue to put them in there. We will get all the takes from the great people. Hit the like button here. Drop your comments down below and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already. This is your #1 place for Eagles news on YouTube. Appreciate you being here.